Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're meeting today. I'm going to say it's 1 o'clock because you hear that clock up a little bit behind. PM on February 18th. We are here meeting as council. We are in the presence of our clerk and deputy clerk and additional staff members, our CAO and treasurers here, as well as several staff in the audience. We do have four council members here. Our first item on our agenda is our land acknowledgement statement, which is the Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of Mississauga Initiative in Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the William Ladies First Nation. Our work on the lands respectively acknowledges their resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. I don't see any additions to our agenda unless someone has something they'd like to bring forward. So moving on, point on our agenda, confirmation of the agenda, and prepared a motion would be that the agenda for the council meeting held on February 18th, 2025 be approved. I have a mover and a second, please. Mark, second, Barry. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. You. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest or general nature today? Seeing none, will be recorded. Public question period on agenda items only. So, do we have anything? Anyone register? Anyone on with us? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Hearings under section 0.1 is recommended the council of the corporation of Township of Hamilton enact follows the council to a public meeting under section 34 Planning Act at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Okay? On February 18th, 2025. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by John, second by Larry. Questions or comments? Those in favor? Okay, thank you. Our first business is Paul and Jane zoning bylaw amendment 15-24 at 1567 McEwen Road. And the agent is Macklin, who is in the audience with us. Thank you. Jennifer, would you, I think for the one of the first times in your life, come to a desk and a chair, a place for your notes, a microphone. My goodness, improvements, Jennifer.
This is fancy.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Jib. Application ZBA 15-2024 is an application for a zoning bylaw amendment pertaining to a property located at 1577 McEwen Road in part of Lot 2, Concession A. The property is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of County Road 2 and McEwen Road in the southeast quadrant of the municipality. The applicant has applied to rezone a portion of the property to the rural commercial zone, permitting rural commercial uses along with commercial self-storage uses. The retained portion of the property would need to be rezoned to the rural residential zone. This application is required as a condition of consent applications B1024 and B1124 approved by the Committee of Adjustment on September 10th, 2024. Those applications conditionally approved the creation of a 1.2 hectare rural commercial lot and a 0.8 rural commercial lot. So the property is approximately 5.2 hectares. It has frontage on both McEwen Road and County Road 2. It is developed with a single detached dwelling, a garage, and a shed. The dwelling and buildings are located in the northwest corner of the property, and there's a driveway that leads up to the dwelling, and it's located further south off of McEwen Road. There are some there's a change in elevation on the property. There's a drumlin that runs across, and the house is situated at the top of, close to the top of the drumlin. The conditionally approved severed lots have frontage on County Road 2. And the conditionally approved retained lot would just have the McEwen Road access. using the existing driveway. The subject property is located in a residential cluster along County Road 2. There are also some employment uses in the area. There's an auto repair shop, a commercial self-storage facility, a machine shop located west of the subject property. Most of the properties located along the frontage of County Road 2 are residential properties developed with single detached dwellings. There are large agricultural properties to the north, northwest, and northeast that are actively cultivated with cash crops. And other agricultural properties in the area include an orchard and fruit farm to the south and southwest, as well as a beef cattle farm to the north. The property is designated employment in the Hamilton Township official plan. The provincial planning statement contains policies particularly pertaining to the employment area. They're contained in section 2.8 of the provincial planning statements, and they require municipalities to promote economic development and competitiveness by providing an appropriate arrangement of uses, providing opportunities for a diversified economic base, identifying sites for investment and monitoring the availability of employment lands, encouraging intensification of employment lands, and addressing land use compatibility adjacent to employment areas. The conditionally approved rural residential lots would be permitted under the employment policies contained in the PPS. However, it must be demonstrated that the proposed development can be serviced with available services. A basic site plan was submitted with the application, and that was the consent application that was considered by the Committee of Adjustment. However, there are no details regarding the proposed use, as it is our understanding that the lots will be sold for future rural commercial development. A copy of that site plan was attached to the report. However, it's a very preliminary site plan. It just shows that there's basically a building envelope on the property. It doesn't contain any details regarding access, stormwater management, lighting, vehicle movement, and et cetera. And those are usually identified and discussed during the site plan approval stage. Section 3.6 of the PPS contains policies regarding the provision of sewer and water services. And there's a hierarchy to the provision of services. The preferred method of servicing is full municipal water and sewage system services, which the township does not have. The second is private communal communal water and private communal sewage, which are not available in this area. And then the third is individual on-site and on-site water and sewer. So these properties would be serviced by private services, and there has been no demonstration at this point in time that the lots will be able to accommodate any of the proposed uses. Now, as a part of that, during the consent process, numerous concerns were raised regarding water services, water availability in the area, and the lack of hydrogeological information. No hydroge information was provided with this application, probably due to the fact that they don't know what the proposed use will be on the property. As such, it's recommended that any zoning bylaw, any zoning bylaw amendment for the property, that it be rezoned with a holding provision requiring the execution of a site plan agreement and approved site plan prior to the removal of the holding. During the site plan review process, any applicant would be required to submit the necessary technical information, which could include traffic, hydrogeology, stormwater management, land use compatibility, noise, etc. The extent of the studies is determined during a pre-consultation with any development application proponent for the property, and we would spell out what was required. Given the concern over water in this area, hydrogeology will be required for any development on the property to ensure that there would be no negative impact on the existing uses in the area. Northumberland County adopted official plan amendment number 1 to the county's official plan, and it contains policies regarding natural heritage protection. That official plan amendment is still under review and revision, so it's not yet in play, but it does identify the eastern portion of the proposed retained land as having significant woodlands and enhancement areas. That area is not impacted, but with these applications, the enhancement area and the feature are located on the retained lot. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment, which would facilitate the finalization of the conditionally approved severances, is generally consistent with the PPS. However, any future commercial use will be subject to site plan control to ensure that the uses can be serviced with the required rural service levels. The property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan does not apply. In the county official plan, the property is designated rural areas, and the rural areas designation provides for the diversification of the economic base and employment opportunities in that area. Permitted uses include, but are not limited to, agricultural, rural, commercial, and industrial uses, as well as recreation and tourism. So the zoning bylaw is consistent with the county official plan. The Hamilton Township official plan, as mentioned earlier, the property is designated employment areas on Schedule A to the township's official plan. The employment area is a sub-designation of the settlement areas designation, and employment policies are found in Section 3.4 of the official plan. Section 3.2 of the official plan contains policies for commercial and industrial development. Commercial uses shall include a wide range of commercial uses intended for the residents of the settlement area and the traveling public. Commercial uses must be compatible with other uses, and compatibility will be addressed by means such as access to the property, ingress and egress, provision of adequate parking, loading spaces, buffering, etc. These items will be addressed during site plan approval process. The site plan process is a technical review of an application. The development proposal must, for any new commercial use on the property, so that's during the site plan, must be accompanied by a servicing options report prepared by a qualified engineer, and must be compatible with surrounding land uses in accordance with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, D6 guidelines. And Section 3.2 of the official plan says that the lot shape and size for any new commercial and industrial uses shall be appropriate to allow for the location and use and all relevant accessory uses in accordance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw. So typically, when a lot is created for commercial or industrial purposes, we know what the end use is going to be. In this case, we do not know what the end use is going to be. The applicant has demonstrated on their preliminary site sketch that there is a building envelope on the property. However, the lots being proposed won't be suitable for all rural commercial uses. It's just not possible for it to be appropriately sized for every use that's listed as a commercial use in our zoning bylaw. So the conditionally approved severed lots are permitted by the official plan. However, future development will be subject to site plan approval, and technical studies will be required prior to site plan approval. The property is currently zoned permanent agriculture in the township's official plan. Permitted uses in the agricultural zone are generally agriculture related, and the minimum lot size is 18.2 hectares, and it requires a minimum of 100 meters of frontage. The conditionally approved 0.81 hectare and 1.0 hectare severed lots are rural commercial lots which will not comply with the requirements of the permanent agriculture zone, and they must be rezoned. The applicant has requested that they be rezoned to the rural commercial zone, and they intend to use them for rural commercial uses. And they also requested that commercial self-storage be included as a permitted use. Accordingly, it's recommended that the property be rezoned to the special rural commercial 4 zone, which would permit the commercial self-storage uses in addition to all of the other permitted uses in the rural commercial zone. And I listed all of the rural commercial uses in the report. There's a range of uses that are permitted. So the lots would comply with the minimum lot area and lot frontage requirements for the rural commercial zone, which are 0.4 hectares and 45 meters of frontage. And since the ultimate land use has not been determined, it's recommended that the lots be rezoned to a holding provision, which will require the execution of a site plan agreement prior to the removal of the holding provision. This approach will ensure that the site cannot be developed until such time as all of the technical issues and site design have been addressed. As part of the site plan approval process, the developer will be required to address site servicing, water and septic, stormwater management, land use compatibility, traffic and site design. And during that review, during the review of the consent application, numerous concerns regarding water supply, drainage, stormwater management, traffic were expressed regarding the development of those lands. The 3.16 hectare proposed conditionally approved retained lot will need to be rezoned to the rural residential zone, as the applicant indicated in the previous consent applications that the proposed use is residential and it does not comply with the permanent agriculture zone provisions. The application was circulated to a number of agencies as required by the Planning Act. Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority commented that the subject property is not located within a GRCA regulated area and they have no objection. Township of Hamilton Building Department indicated that they cannot comment at this time due to the lack of information regarding the proposal. The application is not accompanied by any proposed building or site plan control information. The information will be required prior to any development on the property. Township of Hamilton Public Works commented that they have no concerns with this application, and they note that if the intent is to have an entrance from McEwen Road, then an entrance application will be required and the process will have to be followed. It would be a commercial entrance and additional deposits will be requested. Township of Hamilton Fire Services had no objection to the application and recommended that the property owner speak to the township building official regarding what will be required for commercial water supply, on-site water supply for fire suppression purposes on this property if the proposed use is to be a self-storage. The ultimate use of the property will determine whether or not a supply of water for fire suppression is required on that property or either of the properties. Northumberland County had no objections to the application. Alderville First Nation commented that an archaeological assessment will be required as the property is in proximity to a historic travel route. They further indicated that they expect to be engaged on the archaeological work at stage 1 of the assessment. The archaeological assessment can be undertaken as part of the site plan control process. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 120 meters of the property on January 29th, 25, and a sign was posted on the property. At the time that the report was written, no public comments had been received. However, since then, we have received 14 comments relating to the application from area residents. The comments that were received are similar to those that were received during the consent process. They relate to hydrogeology and the water supply problems in the area, drainage. The properties are at the bottom of a slope. Loss of enjoyment. It's a quiet country. We all moved here because we like quiet country living. It's a lovely, peaceful, private spot with an abundance of nature that surrounds us all. Being outside, whether gardening, bird watching, working on hobbies, reading, sewing, relaxing is an important part of one's mental health. Having large commercial buildings in such close proximity will undoubtedly change our enjoyment of these activities, as well as the peaceful nature of the area. Concerns about traffic, will traffic increase? It's already a busy area. Garbage, having a commercial property increases the amount of garbage that will go to a landfill, as well as people litter. We don't want to be picking other people's garbage that is blown into our backyard. We already have people ditching trash from their cars on Highway 2, which lands in our ditches and blocks our culverts. The corner of McEwen Road and Highway 2 is a school bus stop, and it has been for over 10 years. Please take the safety of children into consideration on what type of commercial business is planned. They also, and I apologize, they had also tried to look up the special rural commercial holding zone in the zoning bylaw, and they couldn't find it. And that is because the the special rural commercial 4 zone is a new zone that will apply only to these properties. It's a special zone that's going to permit the rural commercial uses in addition to the commercial self-storage, and the holding provision will be placed on it at that time. How do we know they are really going to use the new zoning for a storage facility? What if they say that now and after the zone switch to a water guzzling establishment? What I can say about that comment is that during the site, the uses that are permitted are outlined in the zoning bylaw, the planning report. And when they apply for a site plan, apply with a site plan application for a commercial use, it is a specific use that is going to be, or a specific type of building that is going to be applied for, and they would need the required technical studies for that use. If it then changes, or they propose a change of use is required, and we would have to look at if any, there would be a site plan change or need for additional servicing information. A lot of the comments are similar, so I'm going to try and summarize them for council. But I just want to make sure that I have everybody's concerns down. Is it necessary to change the zoning before a property is sold? It could still be sold with the zoning standing and zoning as it stands and fit in with the community as it is now. The property does have to be rezoned. That's one of the conditions of consent. They applied to permit 2 rural commercial lots, and one of the conditions of consent is that the property be rezoned to a rural commercial use with a holding provision. And if that condition is not fulfilled, the consents will lapse. The property also cannot be severed for residential purposes, or to allow for residential purposes. And that is, so they can't have just dwellings on those properties. They're concerned about water. It's a major issue. So lack of water, drainage, no buffering or security fencing, and sound deadening fences have ever been discussed on the plans. Buffering will be addressed during site plan, whether or not, depending on the ultimate use of the property. 24/7 operations are not compatible with residential living. As I mentioned, any application for site plan approval will need to be accompanied by a land use compatibility study, and the proposed use must comply with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks D6 guidelines. Loss of farmland. The proposed, or the subject property, is designated employment in the official plan. It's not designated permanent agriculture. While it is zoned permanent agriculture, it's actually designated employment. Increased traffic, as I mentioned, traffic studies required. Habitat destruction and displacement of wild animals. During the review of the consent, there was no indication that there was a natural heritage feature on this property. The severed lots requiring the completion of an environmental impact study. Large plans that are coming in fast are premature. This area needs sewers, storm sewers, and municipal water supply for large projects. This water table has failed to sustain what is here now. A project of this size is further putting the residents at risk of devalued properties and damage. If these projects fail, is there a plan for land remediation? Is there a plan for rectifying damage and market value property to owners for completely dried up wells and flooding? Well, prior to any development taking place on these lands, site plan is required as part of site plan process. Hydrogeology will be requested. The hydrogeology study will have to demonstrate that there's no negative impact on adjacent property owners. This is another one that I've received regarding their concerns. I'm going to be brief. Our environmental impact study, a geological study conducted of the water table to assess sustainability. Will water usage be metered and reported to the appropriate authorities? Concerned about noise and light pollution that could be caused by commercial venture. traffic study? Is there a plan for land remediation if the venture is unsuccessful? Is there a plan for rectifying damage done to other properties as a result of commercial activities? So those are very similar to the last comments that we had received. This one included a comment about geological study. If it is determined during the pre-consultation, depending on the ultimate use of the property, if a geological study is required, then that will be undertaken. I'm wondering whether they meant hydrogeological study because they did discuss water table after that concept, after that. So it could be hydrogeology. And regarding water usage of water or metering of water usage, unless it is required as a condition of a permit to take water, I'm not sure the municipality doesn't monitor private well water usage. This is another comment. Is the zoning necessary? Water shortage in the area. Lack of water drainage, buffering, 24/7 operations, loss of farmland, increased traffic, habitat destruction. So these comments here, I've got 1, 2, 3 that were all the same, and they pertain to comments that I've previously reviewed. This one is the property with water problems that have been discussed previously. Feel that further development in this area is irresponsible. We need services to support an employment area and cannot keep developing and leaving the burden of failing water table to current residents. 2 residents of this stretch of County Road 2 have built trailers to haul water as the cost of water delivery has increased 150% over the last 2 years. 15 years ago, I would get 2 loads of water a year at $90 per load. This has increased now to every 3 weeks at $280 a load, starting in July and continuing still ordering into February. The problem is becoming progressively worse. Developers, investors selling property here will leave new owners in the same costly position as the current residents. I believe council should stop development in this employment area until water services are brought in. Reading up on the provincial policy statement, it covers the appropriate transportation, water service, and infrastructure needed to accommodate current and future needs. I've received another 2 emails that were identical to the previous ones that had the same list. This is another one. Okay. Concerns lack of water as stated in previous meetings. The employment area has more residential development than commercial. With this, with investors coming into this area now, this area will become the go-to area for investors to capitalize on selling properties for potential commercial customers. Promoting larger 24/7 businesses to an area that is mostly residential and lacks services to support larger businesses has been discussed before. I have requested council to review and define this employment area due to the higher residential population here. Has this been looked at yet? The water table here has already failed with the usage now. To be responsible planners of Hamilton Township, this lack of water should be considered seriously. We have a right to water, and more development that is added to this area, the less water we have. I have a record of expenses for our water from 2009. From 2009 to 2024, I've paid for over $10,000 of water delivered. I spent $10,000 for a drilling company to come in and drill. They failed to find any water. The water delivery was approximately $100 a load until 2022, when the price increased to $280 a load. At first, we would need water starting in August, ending in October. As the area has grown, we are now ordering water in July, and this year, as of February, we're still trucking water in. It's getting progressively worse. In October 2024, we had water run out in 2 weeks, which totaled $560 spent in water in 2 weeks. The town water bills approximately $30 per month, $360 a year. In 2 weeks, we paid $200 more than a year on services. They've purchased a commercial trailer to reduce the cost of having water delivered. trying to rectify their lack of water and comes into more plans to further jeopardize their water table. The PPS, Consolidated Statement of Government Policies, they talked about efficient use and management of land resources. And it also speaks to the provision of necessary services. This is identical to one of the other ones that I've read, as is this one. And final one. So the concerns mainly pertain to water and land use compatibility, drainage, and servicing. So there are a number of concerned residents in the area regarding this proposed development. So the conditionally approved commercial lots are located in a designated employment area and must be rezoned to a special rural commercial 4 holding zone, which will require the execution of a site plan agreement prior to the removal of the holding provision. A number of technical studies supporting the development of the proposed lots or conditionally approved lots will be required as part of the site plan submission. These studies will address site servicing, stormwater management, site design, traffic, archaeology, and land use compatibility. Other things may come up depending on the ultimate proposed use of the property, but the list of technical studies is refined when we have a pre-consultation meeting with the applicant, the development application. The special commercial zoning or the special zoning will permit commercial self-storage uses in addition to all of the other rural commercial uses. The retained parcel would be rezoned to the rural residential zone. And once the rezoned proposed and severed lots, once they're rezoned, they will comply with the requirements of the township zoning bylaw.
I wasn't sure if you were just taking a breath or whether you were done.
Well, I was kind of thinking about that myself. I've said a lot of words to people, so rather than reiterate, I'll just say one more thing. The recommendation is that application ZBA 15-24 be it to amend the property, the zoning on the property be approved, placing the lands in the special rural commercial 4 holding zone, which will require the completion of the necessary technical documents at that time. Given the fact that we don't know the ultimate use of the properties, the applicant did not submit any technical documents with the zoning bylaw amendment application submission.
Jennifer, yes, you've had a very involved report, a lot of detail, a lot of information. I think the people around this horseshoe, or pretty much everyone in the room, was expecting the exact same types of comments. And I'll just deal with the 3 that I put down as my high points. Lack of ground source water runoff issues, traffic issues. We get into the compatibility and different things like that, but those are 3 big ones. We all understand that. None of us would want to be in a position where we had a residential unit that was impacted by any property next door and lost what water supply we did have. Where I would like to take you for a moment, if I could, Jennifer, is to the holding provision. And having a little history, I'll say that the holding provision, and please correct me where I go wrong, the holding provision provides the zoning to move forward to a certain point, at which time requiring the technical hydrogeology or whatever other studies are required, traffic, stormwater, all of those studies as determined to come forward before the holding zone can be removed, before any actual construction can take place, before any lot can actually be registered. Am I correct? And it's the last part I really have a question.
Partially.
Please correct.
The lots can be registered once the conditions of consent have been finalized. So those conditions of consent were the registered reference plan, the property needs to be rezoned. I'm trying to think of what the other conditions were. The taxes have to be paid up to date. There's a number of regular conditions that have to be undertaken. And once those conditions of consent have been fulfilled, the lots can be registered. The holding provision will not allow for the development of those lots until the holding provision has been removed. So by rezoning it to a holding provision, that means that they can't build anything on the lot until they get site plan approval and apply to have the holding provision removed.
I maybe asked the question poorly, but you've actually given me the answers I was looking for. The lots could be transferred once the conditions have been met. However, construction cannot take place until all the technical submissions have been submitted and the holding zone provision removed. Could you, my only outstanding question now for the audience primarily is, could you describe how the holding zone gets removed?
Certainly, the holding zone removal is an application under the Planning Act to remove the holding provision. So they apply, an applicant would apply to the municipality to remove the holding provision, to remove that basically H from the zoning schedule. And it provided all of the conditions have, or the requirements, because in the zoning bylaw amendment that's going to be considered by council today, it says what has to be done in order for the holding provision to be removed.
That process of the removal of that H holding zone is a public meeting, very similar, if not identical to today's, for example.
Yes, there's a public meeting, and the holding provision is removed. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. To our audience, there is a process. Many of you have been here before. There's a process of me asking who's here in support, who's opposed, and who's seeking clarification. And then we come back to the applicant or the agent for information, comments, and then move forward. So I'm turning to the audience and I'm simply asking, is there anyone here in the audience in support of the application other than the applicant and the agent? So anyone here in support of the application? Seeing none, I'll move on to the section where I ask, is there anyone here opposed to the application? Okay, as I suspected, and I will once again say, each and every one of you will have an opportunity to come to the mic and state your opposition. If the three people in front of you have said the exact same thing, I would be pleased if you would consolidate your position. We don't need to hear 29 times of the details of the lack of water. We are more than willing to hear every word you wish to say. However, we would ask you that consideration of you. So amongst yourselves, I once again will ask who would like to come to the microphone and speak first. Gary, you're sitting up front, so please come to the microphone. Identify yourself, because there'll be people in the room who don't necessarily know you. And I would also ask you to identify your address, please.
Yes.
And then the microphone is certainly yours.
Is the mic on? Oh, it is. Okay, great. I'm Gary Nizal at 1621 McEwen Road. I live adjacent to these properties. So I'll give you the condensed version that Jennifer got on Friday. For the record. Dear Jennifer Curran and members of the Hamilton Township Council, regarding 1577 McEwen Road, part of Lot 2 Concession A, Hamilton Township, owners Paul and Jane Lang, Andrew, agent Andrew Macklin, file ZBA 15/24. I recently received a notification of application to amend Township of Hamilton zoning bylaw 2001-58 under section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13, file number ZBA 1524. I have concerns about the zoning change to permit commercial uses as well as self-storage units. This application to change the zoning appears to be in compliance with section 16 of the rural commercial regulations. However, variances can be granted to overrule section 16. I object to this application of zoning based on the same criteria discussed in the previous severance meeting regarding the property at 1577 McEwen Road. Briefly, will there be an environmental impact study? 2, will there be a geological study conducted of the water table to assess sustainability? 3, will water usage be metered and reported to the appropriate authorities because it's commercial? 4, I'm concerned about light and noise pollution that could be caused by a commercial venture. Noise pollution will reduce quality of life enjoyed by residential, rural residents in the area. Are there any plans for a berm? 5, is the traffic study needed and possible alterations to Highway 2 and McEwen Road? The current speed limit on number 2 is 110K. It's fast. They're going to have to find some way of getting on and off without disturbing the traffic flow because it's 10 times worse now than it's ever been, and it's 30 car stretches at a time. I live there. I have to wait at the corner. And will there be alterations to the McEwen Road access as well for these properties? Because that's going to cause more issues from that point of view. Yes, is a traffic study needed and possible alterations to Highway 2 and McEwen Road? Is there a plan for land remediation if the venture is unsuccessful? Is there a plan for rectifying damage done to other properties as a result of commercial activities? Respectfully, Gary Nizal. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Jennifer, you have those notes. Is there anything that you would like to respond to here at this point in time, or would you like to hear the other members of the audience and we'll see some common ground in maybe what our answers are? Okay. Who else had their hand up and who would like to come to the microphone next? Please, again, I ask, yes, I know you, and yes, I know your property, but please state your name and your address, please.
Hi there, my name's Tito DeMarco. My property's 9667 County Road 2 East. I guess I'm about 350 meters from the said property. I'm here for a selfish reason. I own a self-storage unit that's 350 meters away, and I'm concerned that another self-storage unit's going to be built. And it took me 15 years to get it to where it is now, and I kind of want to keep it the way it was. You guys, I don't know if you guys remember, but this property was probably a headache of yours at one time. And I've done my best to keep it off the radar, paid my bills, not created any problems. And I'm just appealing to your good nature that you won't allow another self-storage unit. And the other thing is I didn't get one of these. I just got it from another person. So I'm not 100% sure why 120 meters is acceptable, because that's probably like 300 feet. Anyways, I'm here to just say that I don't draw any water at my property. I know all my neighbors have water problems. And I guess I don't want another self-storage unit 350 meters away from me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The circulation distance, I'm going to make my statements that I probably shouldn't, but because of history. Circulation distance are identified in the Planning Act, not in a municipal regulation, and that's what we go by. I won't comment on your thoughts on our history on that property, Tito. I can tell you I spent some time there. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to speak next? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak at all? Jennifer, would you like to provide some comments and restate? Well, we'll deal we'll deal with those who are opposed. I guess, would you like to provide some of those notes you've already shared with us in your report? And maybe a part of that, Jennifer, is you're certainly a professional planner. There's no doubt about that. But maybe there's the opportunity that a layman's word might benefit the audience.
Based on the comments that we have just, the oral comments that we've just heard, they're very similar to the public comments received in the letters that I had mentioned to council. With respect to any necessary road changes to the McEwen Road or County Road 2, when somebody comes to the municipality with a proposal for a piece of property, we ask them to meet with staff. That'll be staff from the planning department, the public works department, the building department, fire department. We may have the conservation authority come if there are lands that are regulated. The county, given the fact that this property has frontage on County Road 2, county transportation services, county waste services, county planning. Did I say transportation? Transportation would all be required to attend. We call it a pre-consultation meeting. It's just a meeting where somebody says, I am proposing to put use X on this property. And we say, okay, here's the issues that we see with that. In order for you to submit your site plan application, which is going to lay out where the building's going to go, where any lighting's going to be, where any entrances and parking and loading spaces and anything like that are going to go, we require you to do these studies as long as your professionally prepared site plan. And your site plan's usually prepared by a professional engineer. And the documents that we'll require are generally for something like this, probably a traffic study, a hydrogeology study, a stormwater management study. They'll have grading, they'll have a functional servicing study, and all of that is submitted with a formal application for site plan review. And then the municipality, the different departments all have a look at the site plan. They say, I have a problem with this, or I'm okay with that. We review the technical documents. If we get documents such as a hydrogeology study that we don't have the resources to review in-house, we retain a peer reviewer, so an engineering firm, to review those studies to make sure that any conclusions, recommendations, that they agree with those. And then that site plan, if it's approved, is then registered on title of the property. So, and no development, it becomes what they call, and this is going to be, I don't know any other words for this one. When they register the site plan on title, then the property has to be developed in that way. It's a legal obligation, and it's what's called applicable law under the building code. So they couldn't apply for a building permit to build something else if it doesn't comply with the site plan that's registered on the property. So they can't do a site plan for one thing and then come in and submit a building permit application for something totally different. That the building department wouldn't be able to issue a building permit for that structure that didn't comply with the site plan. And during that site plan review process, if road improvements were required based on the traffic study, say, that was submitted with an application, if they had to do turning lanes or something like that, and the applicant would be required to, first of all, pay the costs associated with any of that work. And the county would review those works at that time. Similarly, if road works were proposed to McEwen Road, the municipality would review them. We would also retain an engineer to review any proposed changes to our municipal roads. So that's the sort of overview of the site plan process. So we go through the very technical process to ensure that the site can be developed. And given the history and concerns with water in this area, hydrogeology is going to be one of the critical studies required for the area, for development on these properties. With respect to the second comment, with concerns about competition, generally, planning department doesn't, there's nothing in our official plan that says we can only have one commercial self-storage unit within 500 meters or 1,000 meters and that sort of thing. We generally don't get into competition issues with respect to that.
We have never gotten into competition issues in Hamilton Township for a Planning Act application, have we?
I am not aware of it. The only thing I can remember, and I don't think it's in Hamilton Township, in some municipalities, they have a refreshment vehicle licensing bylaw that prohibits a refreshment vehicle being located within X number of meters of a restaurant.
I think you'll find that in this municipality as well. Thank you, Jennifer. We'll go back to the audience and then we'll go to our committee. Is there anyone here seeking clarification on the application? Seeing none. I'm sorry, I don't know Mr. or Mrs. Lang. However, I do know Mr. Macklin and I do recognize him in the audience. Mr. Macklin, you are here as the authorized agent. Would you like to speak to this application? Thank you, Mr. Macklin. And again, I assume Mr. Lang, either Mr. or Mrs. Lang are not here. Am I correct in that thought? Thank you. Coming to committee members. What questions do we have? Larry, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of points of clarification on the holding provision. Do I understand that the owner of the property right now will have to complete all these studies at this time or after the application for building or whatever?
Through you, Mayor Jib. The process is they finalize the severances and the zoning bylaw amendment is required as a condition of consent. Then the owner can register the lots and the lots can be sold. Once a person purchases the property and wants to develop it, they have to submit an application. Excuse me. For site plan approval. Once site plan approval has been approved, a site plan agreement has been registered on title, then they can come to the municipality and apply for a building permit.
So that means that there will be two independent lots. So I would assume that if one person comes to build or buy that one lot, we'll have to fulfill all the provisions.
Through you, Mayor Jib, they will fulfill the provisions as it applies to that lot. Two separate site plans will be required, two separate site plan agreements, two separate sets of technical documents will be technical submissions will be required. If somebody comes to, I'm just going to look and see what the permitted uses are and I'll pick one. If somebody comes and has submits an application for a auction outlet as a permitted use. And they will come to us, they'll have a pre-consultation meeting and they're going to say, I'm going to need a 5,000 square foot building. We're going to tell them that in order to do an auction outlet, you're going to need a traffic study, you're going to need a hydrogeology study, you're going to need stormwater management, and you're going to have to do an archaeology study and whatever other studies are determined appropriate for that use. Then assuming that goes through and everything is good. It's registered on title, and that person can then go and start construction on that lot. If somebody else then comes and says, okay, I would like to have a contractor's yard on this property and I'm going to have a shop and this is how big it's going to be, we would then say, okay, you need to do these studies. And could be a very similar list. If the applications are considerably different, if they came to us with a, say, a commercial greenhouse or nursery or garden center, those uses could have potential to be much more water intensive uses, and their hydrogeology study will be considerably different than the hydrogeology study that was done for, say, a contractor's yard that may just have one washroom in it or something like that. But the list of studies required for each application will be tailored to that application, understanding that there are some main uses or main issues in the area that will have to be addressed, namely traffic and hydrogeology are pretty significant issues in this area.
So for the individual that owns the property now, they will have to make the application for the reversal of the holding.
Nope,
No,
sorry.
So they go lot, so they're gonna have to have each lot severed first. So there's
Correct.
no provisions to get those lots severed then of the conditions that they're there.
Through you, Mayor Jib, maybe I wasn't
Well,
clear.
you probably were clear, but my concern is that that to take the holding provision off, it would have to be for each lot would have to take the holding provision off. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Jib, yes, that is
Okay,
correct. The holding
thank you.
provision can be removed from each parcel independently. It doesn't have to be removed from the entire block.
Okay.
Each property will separately be zoned special rural commercial for holding zone.
Okay, thank you.
John, please go ahead.
Yeah, so it may not be a question, just a comment, but I find this very distracting because if you do have all these measures that the people have to fill and they come back with the studies all completed, what's to say they can't go ahead? Even though some may be negative and some may be positive. But I'm concerned with the water issue. If it comes back that there's no water available in this area for anything whatsoever, does that mean this person cannot proceed forward with the application to build a storage unit, whatever they want to build there?
If the sorry, through you, Mayor Jib, if the technical studies come back that do not support the proposed use, then that is correct, that a site plan won't be approved for the property and the holding provision will remain.
Okay, so my other point here is then if I own those two lots and I was going to sell them to somebody, it's kind of a waste of money, isn't it? When it comes right down to it. If I was a person going to buy that lot, and then I have to fulfill all these conditions and I cannot do anything with that lot except just leave it where it is, then it's kind of a waste of time and money. That's my only other comment.
Maybe I would add a word. It can be, yes. We don't know what the future is going to bring. We don't know what the reports are going to bring. We do know that we have residents in the area waving red flags really loud about lack of water in the ground, potable water, and they have too much runoff water, and they have traffic issues. We hear that. We understand that. The agent is more than aware of that. Heard it repeatedly here. I'm sure the owner is more than aware of that. Anyone coming along as a purchaser is going to have to deal with those issues. Because, and I had the occasion to speak with several of the people in the audience outside after one of our last meetings. No development can take place until there is, and I'll add a word, a satisfactory report submitted. Any follow-up question, John? Larry, follow up to previous, or should we go elsewhere for first? Mark, Bruce, questions? Bruce, go ahead, please.
So just because I don't know, what department says what studies have to be done? Planning, building? when they come and say, we would like to do this, who decides what studies have to be done?
All of the departments in cooperation. That's when we have our pre-consultation meeting and we have building, planning, fire, public works, the county, the conservation authority. If it was in close proximity to a pipeline, we'd have the pipeline. If it was in close proximity to MTO, the 401, we'd have MTO. We get all of the agencies that have an interest in the development of this property. And they come together and they say, I require this, I require this, and I require this. And before a site plan is approved, you get sign off from those. We've received this study and we're satisfied with it. We've received this study and we're satisfied with it. So that's how it takes place.
Mark, you had a question?
Just more of a comment. I looked at the list of proposed, things that can go on this property. And looking at that list, there's maybe 2 that could possibly go there. I mean, realistically, most of them are either non-viable or just can't fit within the boundaries of that property. So has there been any thought to that? I mean, is there anything that, like some of these other ones, I look at Arbitor, there's smells, there's things such as that I presume there's the distance setbacks for that. A number of them would just simply not fit within that property. So really, a craft shop possibly, contractor's yard, small possibly. But other than that, perhaps the self-storage is it. And unfortunately, Mr. DeMarco is not going to like that one.
I take it that was a comment. Did you simply want to say, yes, you're quite right. The potential for limited uses is certainly there, or would you just like to say yes? What would be your knee-jerk answer, your response, Jennifer?
Through you, Mayor Jib, during the consent application process, staff also expressed concern to make sure that the lots are appropriately sized for any proposed use, and the applicant's response was to provide a generic site plan showing that there's a building envelope on the property that would comply with the setback requirements for that particular zone. That being said, you are correct. There are many uses in this list that are not probably appropriate to this property and would probably be could probably not make meet the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks D6 guidelines regarding and land use compatibility guidelines.
We do, however, though, have a proposal of a particular zone which provides the owner an opportunity to review those and work into those that are approved. The more stringent the property requirements are, will be dictating more and more intensive reports. We all know that. And that's, I'm sure Mr. Macklin is more than aware of that, or he would not have proceeded with this application in any way. John, Larry, I believe one of you had a follow-up question, or am I mistaken? Okay, anything further from committee members? Okay. I don't know why I got that far ahead in my agenda, but anyway, that concludes our public meeting. And now we're motion to rise from a public meeting and reconvene into regular meeting under 8.3 of our agenda. The council rise from a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act and reconvene to a regular meeting of council at 2:05 p.m. on February 18th, 2025. Could I have a motion, please? Moved by Bruce, seconded by Mark. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, under 9.1. This again is the application that we've just been discussing. Bylaw 2025-08 zoning bylaw amendment 1524 for Lang. The recommendation is that bylaw 2025 5-08 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2001-58 in accordance with zoning bylaw 15-24 be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 18th day of February 2025. And then once again, we'll state it is a rezoning with a holding provision tied to it. Is there a mover for this motion? Moved by Bruce. We have a seconder for this motion. Second time. Do we have a seconder for this motion? Third, do we have a seconder for this motion? I will turn to our clerk and confirm that this motion dies on the floor. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Butter could withdraw his motion. And that would essentially.
Bruce, you've heard what options are available.
The alternative is, Mr. Mayor, that a seconder could, someone could second the motion and then the motion could be defeated.
Thank you, Daphne. Okay, it's been moved by Bruce for approval as read, seconded by Mark. Do you have any further questions or comments? Request for recorded vote. Daphne, I turn this section over to you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a recorded vote has been requested. As I call your name, kindly say yay or nay. Councillor Butter.
Nay.
Councillor Davison.
Nay.
Councillor Levchin.
Nay.
Deputy Mayor Williamson
Nay.
and Mayor Jip.
I'm actually going to vote nay based on the history that I have here in the process of what applications need to go through. So I'm voting yay.
It's defeated.
Thank you. Moving on our agenda to 10.1, council minute meetings. Prepared motion that the minutes of the January 21st, 2025 council meeting be adopted. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by John, seconded by Larry. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Business arising, none. Committee reports. Motion to receive committee reports. And it reads that the agenda items of 12.2 to 12.6 of the February 18th, 2025 council meeting agenda be received for information. And I'll just simply go through. 12.2 is accessibility. 12.3 is heritage. 12.4 Northumberland OPP. 12.5 Northumberland physicians recruitment. 12.6 Cobourg Public Library. So did I get a mover and a second to that? No. Could I have a mover, please, Bruce? Seconder? Larry? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. (13.1) on our agenda. Annual report and 2024 summary report for the Butterfield subdivision, standalone subdivision system, water system fed by Lakefront Utilities. Report's been in the agenda package. Prepared motion reads the council receives report WTR 2025-02 for the 2024 annual report and 2024 summary report for the Butterfield subdivision standalone distribution system read by Lucy. And the council acknowledges receipt of this report by a recorded vote. Could we have it moved and seconded, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Mark. Recorded vote. Turn that over to you as well, Daphne, please.
Councillor Butter. Councillor Davison. Councillor Levchin. Deputy Mayor Williamson.
Yay.
Scott Jip.
Yay.
Carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. 13.2 tender, Public Works. And this is a tender regarding Sidey Drive reconstruction. And the motion reads that council receives report Public Works and Infrastructure 2025-01, tender number 2025-01, Sidey Drive reconstruction for information, and that council authorizes the mayor and treasurer to award a tender number 2024-01, Sidey Drive reconstruction for a value of $426,631.06 plus HST to Bain Construction Limited. And that a bylaw be approved to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign and execute the contract with Bain Construction Limited. Do I have a mover? Moved by Mark, second by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. .3. Again, another tender, Public Works 2025-02. Council receives report Public Works and Infrastructure 2025-02, being tender number 2025-02, paving and drainage improvements of various roads within Hamilton Township for information. The council authorizes the mayor and treasurer to award the tender number Public Works 2025-02, paving and draining improvements for various roads within Hamilton Township at a value of $218,069 plus HST to Tim Donaldson Excavating Limited, and that a bylaw be approved to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign and execute the contract with Tim Donaldson Excavating Limited. Mover, please. Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? Larry, I think maybe you were first.
Oh, sorry.
No, Larry, please.
Sorry, I yield to the senior at my right. It's just a question. I'm not familiar with this construction company, Tim Donaldson. I haven't seen that come up before. So I'm just wondering, they've certainly a good price, but what's the quality of their work like?
So through you, Mayor Jim, that they have worked a lot of municipalities a little bit farther east, Quinte West, municipality of Brighton. I did call out to some of their references as well as some of my colleagues that I've heard from that done work for municipality of Trent Hills. As far as I can tell, the price is there, the references all passed, and I don't have any issues awarding this contract to this company.
Sometimes, a great price is not always the best price, for quality, but if you feel confident that this company can fulfill the contract with the quality of delivery of the service and the product, then okay, thank you.
Just to add on to that, there is something in the award report for additional engineering, just for some quality control and insurance and inspection to make sure the material that they do bring on site is up to the OPS standards, Ontario provincial standards. So there will be a little bit more additional investigations and inspections through this process.
Any additional questions? Lucas, I might ask you a memory question. Bids were competitive. How many different bids were received on this particular job? Do you recall?
It's in the report, but I think 7.
Thank you.
But very competitive this year.
Thank you, Lucas. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Any further question? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Additional tender, Public Works 2025-03. Council receives report 2025-03. For information, and the council award the purchase of a new 2024 or 2025 diesel-powered tandem truck complete with tilt-forward plow harness, one-way plow wing, and all-season dump box spreader as specified in tender number 2025-03 for a value of $408,570 plus HST to Winslow Geronimi Motors Limited. And that a bylaw be approved to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign and execute the contract with Winslow Geronimi Motors Limited for the purchase of a new 2024 or 2025 diesel-powered tandem truck as identified in tender 2025-03. Can I have a mover, please? John, Bruce. Questions, comments? Everybody. Bruce, we'll start with you.
One.
Mark.
My question relates to the tariffs. How are we protecting ourselves with this tariff? I mean, it could be 100+ thousand. Can we, if the tariff comes in play, can we get out of this if we needed to?
We can get out of this award or the purchase of this truck. When we spoke to the vendor, there's unknowns, uncertainties right now in the council report. There was something that if the tariffs do come in effect or something, obviously commodity changes, anything, staff will have to come back to council. But at this time, we really don't know. And there was language in the tender submission that I think there was 2 or 3 spots in the submission that said tariffs. He just does not know. The US dollar, that is fine, like the locked in with that part of it. But for tariffs and uncertainties with this trade market, nobody knows right now.
Can I just add a follow-up? Dealing with the tariffs, and is there any possibility that, I don't know if other municipalities have looked, can we deal with a place like Mexico directly rather than going through the US?
I don't think so. I mean, we've tried to even look for a demo truck that was already purchased or already built that would meet our spec. That was not successful. We did even try to reach out to the snowplow equipment and harnesses that is built here in Canada. Obviously, the metal comes from the States. We asked if we could buy it in advance just in case these tariffs do come into effect, and they said no, they don't have the inventory, they don't have the stock to hold it for a year. So I mean, as of right now, if nothing happens with tariffs, then we're fine. But if something does come into effect in 30 to 60 days, additional information will have to be presented to obviously staff and then back to council because there's still unknowns of what is the 25% on. Is it on the entire truck? Is it on a portion of it? Is it just on the raw steel? Nobody really knows.
Okay,
And we're working with the vendor closely, usually every week here, just to kind of idea and guess on what is going to happen here in the future.
On the day of the tender opening, I think the majority of the time was spent on discussing tariffs and positioning and options. Because everyone realizes the severity that could occur. Anything further, Mark? I believe we had questions from this side. Okay, all right. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. No further questions. All those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. Council remuneration. This has obviously been in the report. We do have a prepared motion that report T 2025-02 being 2024 council remuneration be received. Mover and a seconder, moved by Mark, seconded by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 15.2 on our agenda. Dealing with water development charge study. And we have a prepared motion that the Council of Township of Hamilton receives report 2025-02, consultant selection for the water development charge study, water rate study, and financial plan. The council approves the selection of Watson and Associates to complete the water development charge study, water rate study, and financial plan. And the contract with Watson and Associates be signed and executed by the CAO and treasurer in accordance with the delegated authority bylaw 2024-22. Mover and a seconder, please. Larry, John, questions or comments? You have a question? Larry, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The last time we brought this study forward, there was quite a number of revisions made or options put in. Understanding that the Watson's got a good impact on an understanding of our situation here. But I'm concerned that, there was a lot of contentious issues the last time they did bring that study forward. So I'd hope that we are doing our due diligence to ensure the fact that they're giving us, a good report at the start. That's my only comment. Thank you.
See you reaching for your microphone.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, from the townships, and I will be leading this project. I have been very transparent when it comes to water. If you look at every single budget presentation that I've done on water, I've clearly indicated the report, the water rate study stated that we should be transferring this much fund to the reserve, but we are transferring this much fund. So we have been very transparent throughout the last few years. So I'm not expecting that many revision this time. But you also have to keep in mind the water master plan is being worked on right now. That will have a significant impact. So again, once all the information is in, we are going to be presenting it, but from our side, I will be leading this report.
Any further questions? Nezrit, if I might ask, what might be the anticipated time frame of getting this report back to council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I am really hoping that we can start or finish this project before I present budget to council. So October, November.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion? Not for study rate today. Okay, thanks, Leo Larry. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Emergency Services 16.1, again, another tender. Half-ton crew cab pickup. Motion reads that council receives report Protective Services 2025-01 for new 2024-25 half-ton crew cab pickup truck for information. The council authorizes the mayor and treasurer to award the tender 2025-01 for one new 2025 half-ton crew cab pickup truck at the value of $61,113.58 plus HST to Thomas Pontiac GMC, and that a bylaw be approved to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign and execute the contract with Thomas Buick GMC. Mover, John, seconded Larry. Any questions or comments? John?
For the chief, the emergency service equipment that will have to be equipped on the vehicle, that's an extra cost?
Yes, through you, Mayor Jib, it is identified in the report. Budget for this project was $90,000. The 61,000 proposed in front of you today, the remaining 27,810 will be for a cap, emergency lights and siren. So it'll be within the budget of the 90 that was proposed.
Very good, thank you.
Mark?
I know at coordinators, you had some concerns with the truck and the tendering process of the truck. Is this now the truck that you're satisfied with?
Yes, I believe this is the best fit for us. And if I can take a minute and take you into the tender, we had the exact same truck tendered twice by the same vendor. One is in stock for about $3,000 more. So after today's meeting, we can go back to that vendor and see if there's any similar questions to the tariff questions and delivery. Worst case scenario, if they still had the stock vehicle, I believe we could still do it. Same truck under budget, just ordering saved us $3,000 if we waited 3 months.
Tariffs, wow. Okay, motion on the floor has been, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. Communications. It is recommended Council Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The agenda items of 17.2 to 17.10 of the February 18th, 2025 council meeting agenda be received. We'll go ahead, we'll move this, we'll second it. If anybody wants to pull something out, we'll do so at the end. Can I have a mover, please, to receive? Bruce. Seconder, Mark. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. Would anyone like something pulled out? Mark?
On 17.2, I think that's awesome again. Job well done. I don't know how many years we can keep going and I guess if we lose it 1 year, we'll be really disappointed. Congratulations again, Nazareth, for you and your team for all your work. And I'm sure that's from all of council, not just myself.
I had the occasion to speak with Nazareth earlier. He said I was going to do something a little different. And a little different is I wasn't going to say anything. On many occasions, I have the privilege of speaking, bringing words to committees and different things like that, which I really enjoy, and I enjoy that opportunity. But I'm going to concentrate on this just a little bit. This is 3 for 3. And we need to add a little bit to our comments right now at this point in time. So I'm going to go. John, you're on my far right. Please, if you wish to say something, this is your opportunity.
Yes, I already spoke to Nezra as well last week, and I believe that I asked the question, I'd like to put out to all municipalities that if we can be a so-called venue for other people to follow in the footsteps of what the treasurer has done and the accomplishments our staff has done to put this whole budget together the last 3 times, 3 awards. I wonder if we could have that copy to other municipalities and follow us and take a lead and be a teacher to other municipalities. This is how it should be done. And I congratulate you again on your accomplishments and all staff as well for their input.
We'll leave that question that's in your thoughts with Nezrat. Bruce, I'll bounce over to you. Would you like to say anything? All right, you've already spoken. I'll bounce back to Larry. Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess when I first came in 2019, I think, or 18, for a few years after that, we were completely, let's put it this way, attacked, cajoled that our reporting was so non-transparent, et cetera, et cetera. Since Nezrat has come here, that we haven't had one question about our ability to deliver budgets or report on financial situations. And when Nezrat took on the task of producing this budget the last time, or I guess three series ago, it was a remarkable report. It was totally transparent because Nezrat gave everybody everything that they could ever want. And so there was no real nitpicking about this and that. And we were fully disclosed about what the information was. Questions were answered within the report. And I just want to say for Nezrat and her department, treasurer, and other people involved in that process, and the design of the report also was unique. And I just can't say enough about the quality of work that Nezrat does and her team. And the fact that we got a report from an American organization just stands to say that Canada does it very well up here. Thanks very much.
I kind of misspoke a minute ago when I said I wasn't going to say anything. What I really meant to say then was I wasn't going to say anything up front. That doesn't say I'm not going to say something now. Recently, there was some sports teams that were playing against each other, and the hype throughout North America was that of a three-peat, never been done in the history of the NFL. Well, I guess about a year ago, when we received award number 2, and when I say we, obviously, you know who the we is, because I had very little, if anything, to do with it. I sent out an email to Nezrat, and I said, 3-peat. Well, I got that email back recently, and it came back from Nezrat, and it had smiles all over it. And it had smiley faces all over it. And Nesret was pleased. And it was something I was pleased to have been part of. And when I say that, I mean the communication about the award. But I had to respond back to Nesret and said, I don't know how to do smiley faces, so I had to use exclamation marks. I also must share with you that as you know, and I've said it many times, I've been here for quite a while. And the accomplishments, the friendship, the assistance, the help that each and every one gives to one another around here has made this council feel really good. I said earlier, I had the opportunity to periodically speak for council and speak for the township, and I don't know whether that's right or not, because I don't think I can do a good enough job of that. But we are a wonderful place to be right now, and I don't have to look too far to my left where I had a topic that I wanted to discuss, not realizing that yesterday was family day, because it means nothing to an old retired person. And I said, well, what about Monday? Well, we can make that work to meet at the office. And I then got, it is family day. But the first position was, we can make that work. If you need that, we'll make that work. And coming back to Nesret and the financial team and everyone that works on that budget, which I don't know where you would have to go in this municipality to find somebody that doesn't have some input to it. Fire, roads, building, every department has input to that budget. Yeah, Nesret's the quarterback that pulls it all together. And we appreciate her for that. But what a team effort. And I would just want to say thank you to everybody. Anyone else wish to pull anything from 17.2? Okay, 17 point, I didn't get that finished. 17.2 to 17.10. Anyone? Okay, 17.9. It's the day dealing with Ontario World Autism Day. I don't know about yourselves, but I know several families that have family members that take a little extra time sometimes, a little extra effort, and they do a wonderful job of it. I personally would like to pull 17.9, have a motion of support to recognize April 2nd as World Autism Day. Did I make it? Can I legally make it? No. John, you would like to make that? John's going to make that motion. Mike's going to second it for us. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. 18.1, Sidey Drive reconstruction tender. Bylaw reads that the motion reads that the bylaw 2025-09 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Bain Construction for the reconstruction of Sidey Drive be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 18th day of February of 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Larry, Mark, John, both. John first, I guess. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 18.2, the paving and drainage improvements. The bylaw 2025-10 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Tim Donaldson Excavating Limited for paving and drainage improvements on various roads within the township be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 18th day of February 2025. Mover and a seconder. Bruce, seconder. Mark. You guys are making it tricky. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 18.3, purchase new tandem diesel. Motion reads that bylaw 2025-11 being a bylaw to enter an agreement with Winslow Geronomy for the purchase of a new tandem diesel truck and plow be given first, second, and third reading, finally passed this 18th day of February 2025. Moving to seconder, moved by Mark, seconded by John. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 18.4, purchase of a new half-ton. Motion reads that bylaw 2025-12 being a bylaw to enter in an agreement with Thomas Buick GMC for the purchase of a new half-ton pickup truck be given first, second, and third reading, finally passed this 18th day of February 2025. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Bruce, seconded by Larry. All questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 18.5, enter in an agreement with Northumberland Networks and repeal bylaw 2024-61. Bylaw, or the motion reads that bylaw 2025-14 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign and execute an agreement with Northumberland Networks LP and repeal bylaw 2024-61 for construction of a fiber optic network to be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 18th day of February of 2025. We have a mover? Seconder? I didn't say anybody's name, sorry. Moved by Larry, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? I just have one. To our roads. Do we have or will we have a full understanding of this project and the impact it will have on municipal lands, privately owned lands?
Through you,
Roads.
Mayor Jib, there is a lot of information being circulated to lower tier. There's a lot of information hasn't become public until I believe the election is over, and you may know a little bit more information on that. But I do feel that we will have a handle on it. We are getting copies of their insurance, their WSIB, their design drawings. We will be issuing permits through Permit Central, which is an online permitting thing where we are collecting fees associated to the work. Speaking with Northumberland County, when this process continues, then they've already been sending some permits through our system that if we don't like their restoration or cleanup or their traffic control, we'll just halt giving out permits. So I do feel that we're in okay shape. They still haven't provided an overall detailed list of roads to date. They gave us a very general area, but not those specifics regarding forest roads, private roads and stuff like that. So we are kind of reviewing it on a case by case scenario, and hopefully, like I say, the county as well as the contractor will work with us.
Thank you, Lucas. A follow-up. If we sign this agreement, which we are about to do, pending the vote, are we losing any opportunity for input in the future?
Input regarding like construction?
Yes.
No, because of the permits that I believe that we issue, we see where where they are going along the shoulders, road crossings. So if there's any concerns with their design or drawings, we can then address it when they issue or when they request for another permit or an MC. The agreement is very vague and allowing the lower tier municipalities to kind of work with the contractor and the design drawings.
I simply don't want the municipality to put at risk in the future because we've signed an agreement that sort of gives a carte blanche approval. That's my concern. John.
Yes, just a follow-up. You talked about various areas within the municipality. We're also talking road allowances as well?
Not the ones that are unopened. It's a lot of it is year-round maintained roads. I'm frustrated as well because there's a lot of information that they haven't even gave it to us. So like I said, Northumberland County is taking the lead on this. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar, but I believe there's over 1,100 kilometers of fiber optic being installed, and it has to be done at the end of this year. So it is a lot of work. There seems to be some pressures outside of Hamilton Township, but we are trying to work with everybody to make sure this is successful, because everyone wants high-speed internet at their doors, right? And trying to kind of get that process through.
So just to follow up, we're talking every road within the municipality
So I'll correct my statement, 1,100 and some kilometers in Northumberland County.
in Northumberland County, okay.
Just to follow up on my own comments, I believe we all know that there's quite a number of forced roads, various widths, various ownerships. Some of which go to the edge of pavement, some of which have no shoulders, some of which have very narrow shoulders. Some aren't wide enough, and I think of Dano Road, for example, and I have no idea whether there's a proposal for a line there or not. Some of them are so narrow that there's no room for the equipment to work. And I simply don't want this signed agreement to be used against us in the future when we have issues materialize. Again, coming back to you, Lucas. Do we have to sign this agreement today? Should we be waiting for additional information?
You're putting me on the spot.
No problem with that.
I think my opinion, we can assign the agreement, and I do feel that working with staff here at the municipality and at the county, that this project there might be a few hurdles, but nothing that we won't be able to improve or fix through the process. There is a list that I have provided to them about forest roads, private roads, some general information. But until they give me a detailed list of AutoCAD drawings and that limit of construction, that's when we'll have more understanding of like I said, of what roads they go on.
Mark,
I just like to, when I read the agreement, it actually says the network on Township of Hamilton right of ways. So that would be just Township of Hamilton right of ways. So that wouldn't include perhaps some of the roads that you've been mentioning. And that says as described in the municipal access agreement, and that's attached to Schedule A. So would that not cover most of?
And through you, Mayor Jib, there is multiple different spots in any of these permits or agreements and communication is that the township shall, or saying that this infrastructure needs to be installed on Hamilton Township's right away. And it's not the township's responsibility or obligation to identify what is private property, what is an easement, what is a road allowance. So we're pushing it back to the contractor, even or Northumberland County, that they have to make sure they do their own background work, and understanding that, yes, we may agree to this in principle, but you as an infrastructure installer or owner must ensure that it is installed on the township's public roadway. And there's stuff in the agreement that indicates that if it needs to be relocated, then it's up to the infrastructure owner at their costs and all restoration that they have to relocate it back to Hamilton Township or a road allowance, a public road allowance.
Larry?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Lucas, just to bring me up to date. We've had Nexicom throughout the township laying lines, fiber optic lines. What is this? Is this going to be in addition to? In other words, they're going to be laying lines on the Nexicom, I guess.
So easy answer, no. There has been a couple permits that Hamilton Township has received that shown additional fiber optic being in areas that already are serviced with fiber optic. And I'll use instance of Bewdley where Nexicom came through. Those permits were not approved, and I sent it back to Northumberland County to say, why would you be doing government or provincial funding for the project of this size when they already have fiber optic. So there is a lot of communications going back and forth with the county, but this process is to service the areas in the Hamilton Township that don't have high-speed internet.
So, so they're installing the fiber optics. Then is the fiber optic that's run along the roads then going to go to the different residences? Is that part of that process, or how do they feed that?
I don't know the exact feed or where the hub or the central is, but when they install this fiber optic, they will be installing it to what I believe or what I understand is right to the resident's house. And if they want to connect, they can. If they don't want to, then they don't have to. There's no process where you have to connect if you already have another supplier of internet.
So the fiber optic lead, is that, who's going to provide that service? Is it?
I don't know who the actual owner of
I know when we were questioning about Nexicom, I was under the understanding that Nexicom would feed the line, and then you could basically say you could choose the provider. But now, I mean, has anybody suggested that the provider is going to be, so-and-so in one area and so-and-so in another area?
I believe it's one provider throughout the county.
So it is, so a supplier of internet service.
Yeah.
Okay. And only one other comment. Can you make sure that David Tabucci's doesn't get killed? Doesn't get.
Lucas, I must quickly share a story with you, which was part of my concern. I know of a property owner that's approximately 2 kilometers north of County Road 74 on Ferguson Road. Worked by an agency, by a service I won't name, was being done on private lands with approval. I'm going to state that again. 2 kilometers north on Ferguson Road. Service company doing work on private lands using approval from Northumberland County as their jurisdiction. You think about that for a second, there's a whole lot wrong. This has an opportunity to have a whole lot wrong when it comes down to who owns what, where. We don't need any liability issues. We don't need any responsibilities of these companies doing things wrong on private lands, on forest roads that we don't own, or on private roads because of this agreement. I hear you saying that we're protected. I hope we are. What I would ask is, as you get information, as it unfolds to you, can you keep this organization up front here in the loop by getting it to committee and then getting it back to council through minutes? Please.
I will try my best.
Lucas, maybe you just pass it to the mayor and he can look after the Northumberland County level.
So like I say, I don't want to get into, but like I said, there's not a lot of information being passed to the lower tier, and I don't know the county level. But there's definitely some push, I believe, at the county level. And like I said, maybe Mayor Jib has a little bit more information, but we are working together, lower tier and the county, trying to make sure this project does proceed and have some positive and rewarding outcomes.
I can assure you the mayor of Hamilton Township has brought forward concerns at the county level to every person who could listen and some who were a piece away.
If I may, through you, Mayor Jib, this is both a good news stories, which is going to get high-speed internet installed across to various households across our township. But we are identifying some of the problems that exist with the process, and that's speed and timing and permits that are required, and the complex nature of the roads in our township that you yourself have pointed out, and that some of the other members of council are aware of as well. But Lucas continues to participate on the working group that's working with the company, the county, and the representatives to try and make it as smooth as possible. And some of the municipalities have identified some of those concerns through the permit, some of the fees they're trying to retain to try and cover any possible costs that are coming up. So we are working to the goal to get internet, high-speed internet available to our residents. There may be some further issues throughout the course of this year that arise, and Lucas will be continuing to work with that group to try and manage through them as they do appear throughout the course of the year. But we're looking forward to getting the install, and that's why we're bringing forward this updated agreement with the new company to get it done in 2025.
Go ahead, Mark.
One thing that I haven't seen yet is how much are we, as a rate, is a person going to get charged for the service? Does anybody know that yet?
No, I asked that question as well, because of obviously through this process, and I believe this project started in 2019. So a lot has changed from high-speed internet in this area. Nexicom coming east along Rice Lake, and then obviously there's Starlink that has a service around here. I don't know that. I asked those questions because obviously investment to this much dollars going into it, they must have some sort of understanding of what it's going to cost. But I've asked those questions and did not get a response. But they are supposed to, the county is supposed to create a communications team. They're supposed to do some LED message board signs out there. There's a lot of information that when they can, they will release a lot more.
It's just a little worrisome, though. Proving something without knowing what the end cost is. I mean, if it's cost prohibitive, I mean, we could be putting in fiber optics for nothing.
That's the county.
Thank you for your commitment to keep us updated, Lucas. Okay, I believe we had a motion moved and seconded. Any further questions or follow-ups? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I guess we're going right down to 24, being our confirmatory bylaw. Yes, I think.
Is it appropriate for me to speak at this time, or do I have to wait for a motion to do that?
What, do you have something on the agenda or do you?
Well, I suppose it is. It's a thank you to our fire department and public works for the work that they've been doing over this last storm.
I think the nature of your comments is always allowed at any agenda at any point in time. If it isn't, I don't care. Go for it.
I just want to say to our staff at the fire department, the public works department, and all the staff that were involved in either fielding the queries and concerns by the public, what a phenomenal job they've done over the last few days. This storm is a little unusual that we've been used to in the past few years. And I think their dedication and due diligence in getting all this done is just a remarkable feat. And we want to thank you all very much, and all the people that work within your organizations. So again, thank you for keeping us safe and clear of all the roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I, just because we're done in not too bad a time, I will share a quick story with you. I thought I had a complaint. And I was about to share it with our roads department people, and I listened to it and I listened to it and I listened to it. And then I finally caught the key word. They were complaining about snow dumping off the end of the wing and creating ice and havoc and drainage issues. And then the key word I got was they're in Stony Creek. Phoned the wrong municipality. So I got zero calls. And again, thank you to so many, whether it be the individual sitting at the front counter dealing with people coming in from the parking lot, or the telephone calls, or anyone in those departments and in general. Great. I don't think we got the confirmatory bylaw done here. So we better go back to it. And it reads that bylaw 2025-13 being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of council meeting held on the 18th day of February 2025 to authorize its execution be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 18th day of February. Could I have a mover? Bruce, seconded. Mark. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have one more motion, but before we get to that, you all exit quickly. Please stay back. There is a photo that we will be taking. So stay back after the council meeting. Motion for adjournment. The council meeting held on February 18th, 2025 be adjourned at 2:55 PM. Moved by Mark, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.